Uh, Good morning, Kipsters. This is Mr. Jennings. This is your science classroom. This is for second and third grade, inheritance and traits. So we've been learning about different inheritance traits. We paused from talking about Wolf 44, which is that light gray wolf that we seen in the last videos. We're still learning about the wolf at Yellowstone National Park, but we're going to move on to a couple of other things to help us learn about that national park, because first we need to learn about different animals and inheritance traits or variations in species. So in this lesson, your objective will be to identify and describe similar and different traits across a variety of different species. So we're going to be using a reference book, looking at some different animals and see if we can figure out the different traits, different species or different variations of traits that different animals have. So we've been answering our big question, and this is how are organisms the same and how are they different? And this lesson will give you more content or context towards how are different organisms different and or the same. So uh, moving on to our PowerPoint. So here we have a quick warm up, and I want you to guys. We're not going to take 3 minutes. We're going to see what do the two cycles have in common. This shows the life cycle of a butterfly and a life cycle of a frog. I want you to take a couple of seconds and think what are some of the similarities that you see with a butterfly being for a butterfly and a frog. Couple seconds. Right now, you should be looking in the life cycle in our PowerPoint, seeing what are some things that you see the same and are different. All right, I want to pause you there. So I know we probably came up with a couple of different things. I'm going to shout some of those things out. We can see um, that they all start as eggs. So we know that a butterfly and frog, these are the similar. This is what they have similar. They both start as eggs. They both end as adults. We can see that they had different stages where they did not look like the adult. So like the tadpole with legs doesn't look like a full adult frog, or a froglet doesn't look like an adult frog. And we know the eggs look very different from those things as well. Or like with an adult butterfly, you can see how it goes from eggs to like a caterpillar or larvae to like the cocoon stage and then to an adult butterfly. They all look different. So they transform from those different things. We can see that both of these life cycles for a frog and a butterfly also have four different stages that they had to go to. The frog it was an egg, it went to a tadpole with legs, a froglet, then an adult frog. Four different things. Same thing for an adult butterfly. Went from an egg to a caterpillar larvae to a cocoon to an adult butterfly. So these are the similarities that we see with the two. Some differences we see that like a butterfly can fly. So one trait a butterfly has is it can fly. A frog, its trait is to hop. We can see that they have different things as well between the two organisms, or different traits between the organisms, but we also see some similarities between the organisms from just looking at this warm up here. So, in this unit, we're going to be biologists. Biologists are scientists that study living things. So we're studying all living things and see how these organisms are the same and are different. So I wanted you to think of what are some ways that organisms can be similar or different. You can take those things that we just learned from the adult butterfly and frog, or you can choose other things. And I'll give you a second to think of what are some ways that organisms can be similar or different. Get ready, go. Cool. So like we can say that like different similarities with those frogs and that butterfly. We can also say like a dog and a cat. Maybe both of them have fur. They both have four legs, but a dog is usually bigger, or a dog barks. So that's a trait. That's something different. While a cat meows. So these are different things. A dog barks. A cat meows. So the trait of a dog is to bark when it speaks. A trait of a cat is to meow when it speaks. But the similarities of the similarity traits that they have are like having four legs, having a mouth, having two eyes. These are different similarities that they have. So remember, an organism is any living thing. An organism is any living thing. An organism is any living thing. Very good. So Moving on. So our next question is: are all humans the same? Why or not? Why not? I want you to look at this picture here. We have some humans here. I want you to think: are they all the same, or are they all different? Do they have some similarities, or are they all different? Okay, thinking about that, we can see just like us, all humans have different traits that are the same. Like we all have two legs, we all have hands, we all have 10 fingers, all have 10 toes, we all have teeth, we all have eyes, we all have hair, we all have eyebrows, we all have ears. These are all different similarities, but obviously every human is not the same. Like someone can be bigger, someone can be tinier, someone can be shorter, someone can be taller. Are different skin complexions. Like someone can be a lighter brown, someone can be darker brown, someone can have a whiter skin, someone can have a yellower skin. These are different things that are different. So all humans have different um, traits that are the same, but we all have different traits that make us who we are, and this can be different things like all being able to speak. But all so we all have that trait of being able to talk, but we also know that our voices sound different. So that can be a difference and a similarity as well. So species, remember, a species is a group of closely related organisms that are very similar to each other. So we are all these species of human. We are all human. That is the species that we are now. There might be a different race where some people are like black or Latino or Latina or Chinese or Japanese or white or different races, but we all are humans. This is the species that we are. So, what about owls? Are all owls the same? I want you to look at this picture here and think really quickly. Are all these owls the same? No, obviously not. We see different types of owls, and even though they might look similar, but we have different species of different owls. They all have two eyes, they all have beaks, but you can see that they have different ways of looking, and this tells us different species, just like humans. What about plants? Are all plants the same? No. See, even in this picture, we can see similar things with these plants, like a stem or leaves, but they all have different stems or different leaves that are bigger, shorter, smaller, prettier colors, just green. It has different variations of traits with these different flowers, even though they have a lot of similarities. So, our big question still is how are organisms the same and how are they different? So, we've seen a couple of different things looking at those owls and humans and plants. And we're going to be learning more how they are the same and how they are different. So, we learned that biologists study different organisms, which are different living things. And they work in these different places all around the world where animals are. We're going to use it to help us answer our big question by comparing similarities in different organisms in this book, Blue Whales and Buttercups. The author of this book, or the authors, are Megan Gross, Jonathan Curley, and Ashley Chase. These are the authors who wrote this book. This is a reference book, which means it is nonfiction. The things in this book are facts. These are facts that other scientists have learned and have shared with us. So in this book, we're going to be figuring out different traits and variations using this text. Okay. So remember, when we come back from the book, we'll be figuring out learning a little bit more about how all organisms are the same and how are they different. So here, we have the book here, Blue Whales and Buttercups. Sorry, probably a little too much zoom. Probably didn't need it. Perfect. So, Blue Whales and Buttercups. We're going to get into this book and make sure that you are listening, taking notes if you can, because it's going to help you answer your exit ticket at the end of class. So, this is a table of contents. Remember, we're seeing how all organisms are the same and how they different, which we have here. We're not going to probably have time to read this entire book. This is a pretty short book, and I'll be reading. You'll be listening, and like I said, some of these questions, I'll let you know which questions are going to be in your exit ticket. So, how organisms are different? There are so many different kinds of animals, plants, and other organisms on Earth. There are polar bears, redwood trees, and nine-armed sea stars. Scientists put organisms into groups called species. Earth has more species than you might expect. Even types of organisms that might seem like one species are often divided into different species. For example, there are actually many different species of whales. There are blue whales, humpback whales, gray whales, and more. Billions of different species of organisms live on Earth. So even though we know whales are a broad um, organism or living thing, but there are different types of whales, species of whales. Sorry, like the blue whales, the humpback whales, or gray whales, and even more than just those. Here we see a couple of different organisms in the pictures below. Organisms can have very different traits. Organisms can have very different traits. This will be in your exit ticket. What is a trait? A trait is anything you can observe about an organism. Say it again. A trait is anything you can observe about an organism. That'll be in your exit ticket today, including the way it looks or acts. Some animals have fur and others have feathers. Some plants have flowers and others do not. Some animals protect themselves by running fast, and others protect themselves by biting. We call these differences variation. This is another question that's going to be in your exit ticket. We call these differences variation. Whenever these different traits that we're seeing, like running fast or running slow or being tall or short or biting or not biting or running, these are different variations that different organisms have. Organisms grow to different sizes. You can find lots of variations in the size of different organisms. Compared to people, elephants are huge. Still, it would take about 20 big elephants to match the weight of just one blue whale. The biggest tree weighs more than 40 blue whales. That's ridiculous. So it's saying that 20 elephants would just take to match a blue whale, and the biggest tree can weigh more than 40 blue whales. So if you did the math, it's 20 for one. Every 20 elephants is one blue whale. So if you did 40 times 20, which is 800, it would take 800 elephants to be as way more than this big tree. You can find huge size variation even between organisms in similar species. For example, the largest species of bat is about 10 times bigger than the smallest species of bat. So here we see like a bat goes from 1.5, it goes from 23 centimeters, 15 centimeters, all the way up to 1.5 meters, which is about like 10 feet long, which is pretty big. Or an elephant from top to bottom is 3.5 meters, which you see is even bigger than that human next to it. Or blue whales are the largest animal in the world, and you see how big that blue whale is, the largest animal in the world. Um, well, see some different things here. We just see how tall these things are, like this tree that's 5 meters, or the penguin 1 meter, or I'm not sure what the animal is. Looks like a tadpole or like a small frog is 1 centimeter. This tree is one of the largest living things on Earth. So this is the tree that they were saying that was bigger than that weighed more than even that blue whale. Organisms get around in different ways. All animals move, but different animals often move very differently. Animals may walk, run, fly, swim, or slide. Plants don't move around the way animals do, but their seeds get from place to place in different ways. We can see lots of variation in many ways that different organisms get around. So right here, we're going to talk a little bit about these traits that these different things have. For example, the trait of a snake. How does the what is the trait that the snake uses to get around? And that's to slide across the sand by moving side from side. So a snake like slithers. This is the trait that it uses to move. Or you can see, I'm not the cheetah here. You can see that a cheetah uses 4 legs. This is the trait that it uses to run fast. Or the fish uses its fin, that the trait of the fin, to help it move across the sea. Organisms protect themselves in different ways. Organisms often are in danger of being eaten. Many animals eat plants and some hunt and eat other animals. Organisms protect themselves from danger in a lot of different ways. These differences are examples of variations. So I want you to think, what does a turtle use? What trait does a turtle use to protect itself? Its shell. A turtle uses the trait of its shell to help it protect itself. Or I can say that Flatfish uses the trait of its color to hide. Um, this will be up in your exit ticket. What does a coral snake do to protect itself? And right here it says coral snakes can kill bigger animals with one bite. So it uses its bite to protect itself from animals. Different animals have different things, different traits that they use. We know that like this crab, it uses the trait of its um, claws. It's another name for it. I'm losing it right now. But their claws to protect themselves from danger. Even in one species, organisms are different. In this book so far, we have been looking at variation between organisms in different species. When you compare different species, you can find a lot of different variations. However, within the same species, organisms can have different traits. For example, horses are all part of the same species, but they have different colors, sizes, and other traits. Variations is there even in one species. So just like we talked about with the humans, horses are the same. We know horses are what horses are, but there are different species of horses. Like it's like a black horse or a lighter brown horse. You might see different species of different animals, and they have different traits. So that black is a different trait, or that brown is a different trait, or its hooves are different traits, or the hair on its back is a different trait. We see these different traits with all organisms. Um, so here we can see with these leaf cutter ants the variations in body size. We see that some are small and some are larger. These are the different types of variations in size. So they all might be the same species, but they have different variations in size. So just like us, like Kamari, he's pretty tall, while someone else might be shorter. So that is one trait that he has is being taller, while other people might not be as tall as him because that is one trait that he has to be taller. Or you may say for Ajani, he works out. So one trait that he has is being stronger than a lot of people. Like he works out and that makes him stronger. And that is one trait that he has. So it might be like big muscles, might be a trait that he has. So we're going to go back to our PowerPoint and we can see how some different organisms are the same and how they are different. And we know that they can have different variations of those different traits. So some things can be taller, some things can be shorter, some things can be faster, some things can be slower. So they might have the same things and different things as well. So when like here, when we seen that some of the organisms were taller or smaller, these were the different variations of those organisms, and or something being small. So you might say like a bat and an ant, or a bat and an ant are both small, but one is bigger than the other. We're going to skip that one. That's for our class. A trait is a distinguishing quality or characteristic about a different organism. Variation is a different form or version of something. So a trait is a distinguishing quality or characteristic, like being tall or short, or being very muscular, or very fast or slow. Variation is a different form or version of something because we know that everybody is not the same. They're different versions of them. So, you guys can share out and post up on our science wall to tell us the different species, traits, and variations that you have found or that you know that you want to share with the class. And I'll see you guys next time. This is our lesson 4. Love you guys. Stay safe. I miss you and see you guys soon.